So there's no change there. I just want to say briefly about why today's event and why we chose to do it in English. Armenia panelistlerin Dikran, Armenian, the idea of this discussion and debate is the brainchild of Dr. Dikran Abrahamian, one of our panelists today. And I'm very thankful for that. And the reasoning was that there were overall a lot of personal reactions about what happened in Armenia, especially after the presidential elections. And a lot of the Armenian media in the diaspora wrote about things, but the analysis, we think, that remained at a with a very narrow focus. Ընդհանրապես հայկական ուրեմն հաղորդակցական միջոցներու մեջ Հայաստանի ընդրական հարցերը մնացին բավական մակերեսային կամ շատ բավական նեղ անալիզներով կամ նեղ վերլուծումներով։ Ուրեմն նպատակը ամեն որ պետք է արիթը դրվի, որ մարդիկ, որոնք որոշ նյութերու մասին փորձառություն ունի ասկային քաղաքական անոր մասին խոսին եւ առավել սպիրկեն ներս դեպի ունենան ընդհանուր հանրային ասուլիսը, որը ժողովուրդը կարենա ներկա կգտնի այդ վերլուծումներում մասնակցի, որովհետեւ ի վերջո Հայաստանը կպատկանի նաեւ բոլոր հայերու կպատկանի սպիրկի։ So the idea was that we needed to bring out from very narrow focus the discussions which existed about what happened in Armenia and why it happened. And what we wanted to do is to bring it in a public debate forum. There are a lot of forums on the internet. You might or might not be a member of the 24i Pro, which is one of the most diverse Canadian forums which exists out there. And many of us have been writing and posting on it. But we wanted to do a public event because the issue is a very public issue, and we wanted to set the example that this kind of debates needs to take place in the diaspora, and it's not only about Armenia, it's about all the Armenian people, in which all Armenians need to participate. Now, why we chose English is because a lot of the institutional and the technical expertise that exists out there about the various topics has a lot of terminologies and expressions which are related, which are expressed in English, and it's very difficult to be able to translate them to Armenian. And we also wanted to make it accessible to a generation of Armenians whose first language is not Armenian, unfortunately. So that was the reason why we chose English as the language of debate. Ուրեմն անգլերեն ընդրելու նպատակը այն է, որ բավական գիտական եւ մասնագիտական թարցվածները, որ պիտի գործածվին այս երեկոյան ընթացքում։ Եվ անոնց թարգմանությունը արևմտահայերենի կամ հայերենի շատ դժվար պիտի ելար, եւ նույն ադեն ուզեինք, որ մատչելի ելար սերմութիվը, որում հայերենի լեզուն հայերենը չէ, հակառակ որ ինենք հայ են ծաղկում։ Այդ պատճառով ընտրեցինք անգլերենը։ Սակայն ասուլիսի ժամանակ կամ ներկաներու հետ խոսակցության ժամանակ կխնդրեմ, որ հանգիստս կա եւ հայերենով, եթե ուզեք նախընտրեք արտահայտվի, հայերենով արտահայտվեցեք։ Please feel comfortable to express and ask questions in Armenian as well. Now, before we go on, a couple of other things. The themes of the discussions today are varied because we will talk about actual reactions, what happened in North America, for instance. We will talk about what are the institutional issues. We will talk about genocide and the effect of genocide. We're going to talk about comparative analysis of democracies in emerging economies or developing countries. We're going to talk about corruption. So the themes cover a variety of issues. But in our mind, or in the mind of the organizers, all of these themes are interrelated and help shed an important light as to what happened in Armenia and what are the options and opportunities forward. This is a very important point I wanted to make before we start. And I would also like to thank, apart from Dr. Abrahamian, Dikran Abrahamian, I would like to thank the Armenian Women's Association for taking the initiative of hosting this event, because we wanted to have an organization which is non-partisan and neutral, and they immediately, came forward and said, we would really like to host this event and participate in it. So I'm very thankful for them for taking on that challenge. One final thing about the format. We're going to start the presentations alphabetically. I will be presenting the speakers as the moderator. Each speaker will have around 7 minutes to make their presentation and their point. So we're going to start with Dr. Dikran Abrahamian, and we're going to end with Dr. Alan White. After their presentation, we will move on to the next. So all 7 panelists will make their presentations, and they will speak. Then I will give a chance to them if any of them wants to comment or express an opposing view to one of the other panelists. The panelists do not know what the content of the other panelists are. I am the only person who knows that, because they have presented their abstracts only to me. So they can comment or argue an opposing position. So if they do argue an opposing position, I will also give the initial panelist an option to respond. But if it is just an overall comment, there will be no second opportunity to the initial panelists. Once that part of the presentations and discussions are finished, we will open the floor to the audience. And then there will be a question and answer period, and you may direct your questions to any of the panelists or to all of the panelists. So that is the format. So our first speaker is Dr. Dikran Abrahamian. He's a practicing physician with internal medicine and cardiology. That's his medical background. Since 1992, he has been actively involved in clinical manifestations of Alzheimer's disease and management of behavioral problems associated with the illness. He has been involved in politics since his teens, and he also holds a bachelor's degree in political science and public administration from the American University of Beirut. He is not associated with any political organization, and he is only a member of the HBU. What he will be presenting is the reaction of the Armenian communities to the tragic events in Armenia on March 1st in North America, of the Armenian communities of North America. It's an overview of the reactions to the presidential elections of February and the tragedy of March 1st from various traditional organizations, including ANCA, the Armenian Assembly, their counterparts in Canada, the AGBU, and various initiatives of individuals, particularly in Canada. It will lay the facts without commentary, except the cautionary note that the rhetoric and finger-pointing from certain quarters may hinder national reconciliation and dialogue based on the experience of the aftermath of the 1996 elections. So the floor is to Dr. Dikran Abrahamian.